Today's bandwidth sponsor is Patreon. Please visit changeyourpov.com/support us to learn more about how you can get exclusive content from Change Your POV Podcast Network, including monthly and annual reports showing you our download numbers and most downloaded episodes. We also share with you our special deals and events that we are either supporting or hold ourselves, unique behind-the-scenes content, and even a super secret podcast available only to those in the $10 or more monthly pledge levels. That's
It's secret.
It's secret. That's changeyourpov.com/support us. Welcome to Change Your POV Podcast Network. I am your host, Eddie Lazary.
And I am your other host, Bennett Tanton.
And Change Your POV Podcast and all of its shows within its network are all working together to bring you the best coaches, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and mentors in the industry to teach you guys how to crush it in life, love, wellness, and your transitions both at home and at work. Imagine having a mix of experienced mentors teaching you their life expertise, packing decades of research, experience, education, testing, and tough lessons into a concise curriculum. We've created one of the premier veterans transitional podcasts available anywhere, and it's free. This is the show that we wished we had about a decade ago. Now, this show is about you, and we are here to help you become just as successful out of uniform as you were when you were in your everyday life. Make sure that you stay up to date with everything going on here and get some free giveaways, ebooks, downloads, and exercises that will help you become more prepared in your post-military life by signing up for our newsletter at changeyourpov.com. If you are new to the show but want to learn more about us and what we are teaching here on the Change Your POV Podcast Network, you can head on over to changeyourpov.com/about us. All right, today we are talking to Brehan Brady. Served 8 years as an infantryman in the United States Army with, I called it VTANG, but it's Vermont Army National Guard, Alpha Company, 3rd of the 172 Infantry Mountain, 10th Mountain Division.
Nope.
My God, dude, you got a lot of fucking...
Just mountain.
Jesus.
Just mountain. They're mountain badasses is basically.
Oh, is that what it is?
We're bragging rights where we're the real mountain guys.
They're the actual mountain guys.
You're like, what mountain? You're like, no, there is just one mountain.
It really... Because there's actually mountains in Vermont.
Yeah.
There's no mountains in fucking Western New York.
Somebody asks you about it, you're like Game of Thrones, bitch. I'm the mountain.
I'm the motherfucking mountain. My name is Thor.
With the 101st Airborne Division, you did all kinds of shit, some multiple deployments. You got some Iraq time from 03 to 04, 05 to 06, which I'm going to have to ask you about, and got out in 2007. You are now a rigger in the H.B DuPont Preservation Shipyard at Mystic Seaport, restoring and preserving historic vessels from the age of sail. Wow, dude, we got a lot to talk about, bro. So, Bennett, thank you for bringing Brehan on the show and introducing us, not only to me, but to the listeners of Change Your POV podcast. Let's get this show going.
Yeah, man. What's up, Brady? You're doing some badass shit.
Yeah, actually, since the last time I spoke with you, we just finished the major portion of what we call the uprig, or putting the boat back together of the Charles W. Morgan. In fact, last Friday we crossed the last yards of the. You ever look at a old square ridge ship that has a mast going up and down, and then yards going across, kind of square to the direction of travel of the vessel. We put the last one up on Friday, the Royal Yard. We had actually taken almost her entire rig down last fall, so we could haul the vessel out down in the shipyard and do maintenance to her hull. It's pretty cool since the ship was originally built in 1841, and she is the only remaining wooden whaling ship in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a big bastard too. Well, I should say big bitch, I guess, right?
So how in the world does an Army guy end up working on a bunch of old ships? Like, how does that happen?
You know, a long circuitous path, but yeah, I got out in August of 07. I got back from my second tour over in Iraq, and I actually left Iraq on Veterans Day in 2006. Got back on the 12th of November, and it kind of made the decision when I was over there that I was going to get out. I was kind of coming to that point where it was sort of, you know, make a decision, stay in or leave. And my oldest son had been born when I was over there, and he was 9 months old when I got back, and I kind of felt like being around to get to see my kid grow up would be sort of nice. And, you know, I kind of had a vague idea of what I was going to do when I got out. I wouldn't really say I had a real hard and fast plan, but I, you know, kind of trying to follow the sort of traditional path of get out, go back to school, use that GI Bill that I'd earned. And, you know, I could say unfortunately, but fortunately, my wife at the time got pregnant with my second son like 6 weeks into my first semester back to school. So school went on the back burner, had to go get a job. Ended up working for the railroad for almost 5 years.
Now, which railroad?
Amtrak.
Oh, so for actual Amtrak.
Yeah, actual Amtrak. I worked in, the number one thing people used to ask me, they're like, do you drive the train? Because they think that's all there is to the railroad. I actually, I worked in the engineering department, so construction and maintenance of the actual track structure, which gave me a good bit of experience actually working with heavy equipment and moving big, heavy things. Which, as it turns out, is actually part of the job of being a rigger.
Yeah, I pretty much every day I get up in the morning, go to the bathroom, I go through that same thing.
That's very similar to working for the railroad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
You're an idiot, bro.
I'm just glad you got it finally. Jesus,
yeah, no, I got it. It's called a mute button.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right.
So, well, hold on. Let's back up before you get too far. Let's roll back to your Iraq time, 03, 04, and 04 to 05 to 06. I was there actually in between that from 04 to 05. So I was there to kind of gap the thing, but I'm interested in where you were in both occasions and how you were so lucky as to basically get almost a back-to-back tour with just a little bit of time in between, and how that happened.
Yeah, so I left Drum in December of 2002, and I got down to Campbell the end of January, and I'd gone through, you know, CIF and replacement and got down to the company I was assigned to. I was only in the company basically a week when we got deployment orders to go to Kuwait. And, you know, I think I was probably there just shy of 5 weeks when we went wheels up to go to Kuwait.
Damn.
For the invasion. So I was in 3rd of the 502nd Infantry in 2nd Brigade, and we ended up, you know, air assaulting into a little town called El Kifl. I believe it was sitting on the Euphrates. You know, and I'm sure you guys remember back, you know, when the invasion was going on, how like 3rd Infantry Division was going hell-bent for leather for Baghdad, and weren't doing a particularly good job, or the idea was it was almost like blitzkrieg, you know, hurry up and get to Baghdad and the war will be over.
Right.
They weren't securing their lines of communication very well. And it turns out, you know, I mean, you know, there's been a maxim of warfare for a couple of centuries, and it's still true. You got to do that. So when their rear echelon units were kind of getting smacked around by some Iraqi army elements, we got sent in to help secure their lines of communication, and then also, 3rd Infantry Division, very armor heavy. Armor doesn't do particularly well in urban environments. Mm-hmm. So we air assaulted in Al Kifl, secured that area. We ended up helping to secure the city of Al Najaf. And then from Al Najaf, we air assaulted into Karbala, and actually that was the biggest fight that I was in. That whole first tour was the Battle of Karbala. My battalion was main effort. My company, my company was battalion main effort. So we were, sort of tip of the spear on that one. And it was, it's a hell of a day, but
now,
we came out on top.
Were you fighting conventional military still at that point?
The elements we were running into were Fedayeen Saddam, so the more hardcore loyalists to the regime.
Yeah.
And at that point, a lot of those guys had thrown their uniforms away, so they were wearing civilian clothes, which in an urban environment makes it very difficult to discern who the enemy is.
Yeah.
We ran into a large enough element of them in the city that they were still fairly organized and fighting as a coherent unit. So even though they were wearing civilian clothes, the 20 guys with AKs shooting at you, civilian clothes or not, they're bad guys.
Yeah, right.
And then after Karbala, we had like a day and a half or 2 day reorganization, and then we air assaulted into South Baghdad, and basically, pushed all the way up to the river on foot, just securing as we went. Spent a little bit of time in Baghdad, and then end of April, the whole brigade air assaulted into Mosul, and I spent the majority of the rest of that year based out of Mosul. We did a lot of work up in Kurdistan, doing like Kurdish resettlement, basically, helping secure folks so they can move back into their villages that they've been driven out of by Saddam.
Yeah.
And we, it was one of those things that, like, after the ground war was over, we experienced like this about a 6-month lull in contact, in situations where we were getting shot at, and for us at the time, we were sort of like, we won, things are good. Every now and again, something would happen. Usually it was a disgruntled local, would, have a little too much of courage juice and decide he was going to go shoot at the Americans.
Yeah.
And, that tended to end poorly for them. But in the coinciding with Ramadan that year, so it was mid-fall of 03, that's when we started to experience our first IEDs. And of course, back then we didn't have up-armored Humvees. So,
oh yeah, we didn't either. Yep.
Yeah, I mean we were like taking scrap steel and trying to make our own up-armored Humvees.
Hell yeah.
And I mean all of a sudden we were making contact again, and we really had to switch gears and go from this sort of like nation building, being the police, being Mr. Nice Guy, to putting the infantry hat back on and start putting boots to asses. And it was really starting, like, we could tell at that point, despite what some people in Washington, D.C. might have been saying, that, like, the situation on the ground had definitely taken a turn for the worse. And it was kind of in the middle of all that when we redeployed back to the States. We've been over there for a year. We all kind of knew, especially those of us who weren't really close to our ETS dates, like we were going to go back over there. It wasn't a question of if, but just how long.
Mm-hmm.
So we got back to the States. Then my battalion got disbanded in late summer of 04, and I ended up volunteering to go over to the new 4th Brigade, which later became the 506. And part of it was, the 506 is like the most storied unit of the 101st, thanks to Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg and Stephen Ambrose, the whole Band of Brothers thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there was and that is one of the things that always a little bit difficult to explain to civilians sometimes, but like the Esprit de Corps is a big deal in the military.
Yeah.
I mean, both of you guys are former Marines. I have a cousin who was a Marine, and that guy, every time he sees an Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, snaps to attention. So,
well, don't give Eddie the credit. He's not a former Marine.
No, I'm not. No, sir. I myself, I was first of the 506, Charlie Company, 1st of 506, when it was with 2nd Infantry Division in Korea back in 99, 2000. And,
Okay.
Yep. Kurhi.
All right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Bullshit.
Nope, that's for a true story.
I'm just saying.
We used to get on the bus.
Kurhi.
Anytime we get on the bus, you'd have to stand at the you climb the stairs of the bus, and you stand at the position. You'd yell Kurhi, and anyone else that was on the bus that belonged to 1st of 506 would respond with
Stands alone.
"Stands alone." That's right. So,
Well, we used to say stands around, sleeps alone.
well, we would yell. We would hop on the bus. You would yell Kurhi. The 506 guys would answer with "stands alone," and everyone else would answer back with "sleeps together." So it'd be like Kurhi stands alone, sleeps together. So that's kind of the way. Yeah, it was kind of a running joke, but there it is. Yeah, man.
We ended up casing the colors in Korea and then reflagging us as we ended up the 1st and 2nd battalions of 506.
Okay.
The 4th Brigade and 163 Cav, I think. Infantry guy. I never really paid attention to the cavalry dudes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what was your MOS?
11 Bravo.
Oh, you were like the actual like crunchies. I got it. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like real grunts.
Like the actual real deal. Like some people say they were like infantry just because they're trying to dumb it down to people that don't understand. But you were like actually infantry.
Actually, infantry.
Blue cord and all.
Blue cord and all. Yeah. So I was 13 Fox Forward Observer. So I was attached to like when I was with 1st 506, I was attached to infantry, but I was like the forward observer, so I had to like.
Basically, it was still a poke.
Yes, I was the guy that would stand in formation without the blue cord and all that fun shit. But but you know, hey,
Feel oddly.
yeah, that's right. I'd be like you know, artillery guy. So it was weird being the one of the. It was me and my RTO, so we were like the only 2 king of battle amongst a bunch of queen of battle. But, somebody has to bear that on their shoulders, right? I did it proudly. Very cool, man. So, all right, so you end up back over there, 05 to 06. Where did you go that time?
Well, we were originally slated to go to Solder City.
Yeah.
That was the plan. And we got to Kuwait, and, the Army always likes to change its plans. And my battalion... I like to say we didn't just get detached from our brigade or our division. We got detached from the Army. Mm-hmm. We ended up getting sent to a little place called Ramadi. And we...
with fucking Penny.
Oh, with Penny?
Yeah.
Oh,
basically,
Jesus. Oh.
Basically, yeah. They were there. I don't know if they were there at the same time, but they were in the same AO. So,
so the hardcore infantry guy shows up. And they're like, I don't know. You're going to have to go talk to the Marines that are pulling gate guard and tower guard, right? That'd be Penny?
No.
Yeah,
sure.
right.
Smart ass.
Yeah, I was in Baghdad 04 to 05 over on the eastern side by Solder City. And my brigade had occupied that whole eastern side. And we had the 3 FOBs that were there, Eagle, Iron Horse, and Camp Cuervo. I don't know what they are named now. But I think the names changed when we left. But yeah, we were right there. Solder City was not a fun place. After we left, found out that's when they started to send elements in there and actually put up like a dividing wall through Solder City to try to reduce enemy movement and traffic and all that kind of shit.
Just like you did in Ramadi too.
Yeah.
That's what we ended up doing about. Yeah, it kicked off in May. Well, April was when we had we launched Operation Iron Eagle, which is how we basically divided the city in half.
Yeah.
And running north to south was just permanently manned observation posts, and where that could basically cover 2 ends of the same stretch of road, bunch of concertina wire, another observation post, all the way across the city.
Damn.
And yeah, Ramadi was pretty much a shooting gallery the whole year we were there. Mm-hmm. And we had, I remember. At that point, I was a staff sergeant, and running a squad. And once you hit like squad leader, and I was always a firm believer in this, that like your weapon is no longer just your personal weapon. Your weapon is your squad, and how you fight your squad,
right?
How you maneuver your guys. So you can't get sucked so much into the fight that you lose that situational awareness. But there were multiple engagements where I would exhaust what I carried into the fight as far as ammo was concerned, and we always went heavy.
You mean you had more than a 7 magazine combat load?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah, man. We were rolling with like 16 mags a person, man. It was nuts.
Fucking rolling with like a couple extra ammo cans full of fucking loaded mags. I know.
And we went black on ammo all the time. I was like, I think back on like Vietnam and like when those guys had just limited ammo to carry, like they ran out of ammo like quick as shit. Because we did, and we had way more than they did. So let me ask you this, Brehan. Tell me, I want to hear. We got your background, you got your story, we got the dates all covered. I want to hear a fucked up story. Like, give me a story of the 2 tours you were there that was just a story that's like, no shit, there I was, like a good old fashioned war story. You have one? I'm sure you've got at least one.
Oh, I got a good one. And
okay.
it goes back to my first story. This is sort of a club of guys I serve with who, if you say to any one of these guys, hey, were you on the berm? They'll stop dead in their tracks.
Okay.
So, this is a no shit, there I was.
Love it. Those are the best stories.
We hit the LZ outside of the city, offload the birds. My platoon was first platoon in. We were securing the LZ. Rest of the company comes in, so we're last in order of march, and we're walking across, and it's like Tatooine from Star Wars. I mean, like you could barely see the city on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember guys yelling at my platoon leader because my platoon leader was a guy Jason Davis had told us it was only going to be 1,500 meters to our objective.
Mm-hmm.
And they dropped us God knows how many kilometers out in the middle of the friggin' desert. So we have this, sand-covered treadmill to walk on. And, as we're getting closer to the city, you see smoke rising, you can hear gunfire, you're moving to battle,
Yeah.
And so our initial objective was this like water treatment plant that was kind of on the edge of the city. And as the lead elements of the company are hitting the city, they're getting ambushed. The Fedi and Saddam knew we were coming. They could see us coming literally a mile away. So, and of course, my platoon is last in order of movement, so all hell's breaking loose in front of us, and we're running amongst little rubble piles and little beat up shanties, and at one point, I'm taking cover behind a pile of bricks with my squad leader and my team leader at the time. My squad leader was a old 10th Mountain guy who had been in Mogadishu, and was one of the guys who went in, whole October 3rd, 93, pulling the Rangers out, Black Hawk Down thing. And he turned around and he goes, this is just like the fucking Moog. And me and my team leader looked at each other with like that, oh shit, look in our eyes. Because it's like, I read the book, I saw the movie, that day didn't go well.
You're like, we're fucked.
We're fucked.
Pretty much, like somebody's collecting that life insurance.
Yeah.
So,
good thing they raised it to 400 grand.
We end up punching through and taking that initial objective. And, at this point, it's 103 degrees out. We've just been getting shot at for the last hour, literally just running through streets, running through intersections, the whole, like, hearing the popcorn around your head, and scared shitless the whole time.
Yeah.
And we get in there, and
at least you fucking admit it.
Oh, dude.
Oh, yeah, I got a follow-on story about that. But anyway, we end up, getting into the water treatment plant. We had like a 5-minute break, and my platoon leader comes in. He goes, I need a gun team and a squad to go secure, the southern perimeter of the water treatment plant. Second squad, you're up. So we all get our gear. We got one of the gun teams from weapon squad with us, and we push out of the buildings. And there was a chain link fence with barbed wire on top of it, surrounding the whole compound. And we cut a hole through it, and then we went out, and there was this elevated berm running pretty much, almost dead nuts straight on the south side, just 20, 30 meters past the fence on the south side of this compound. And we go up on it, we take cover, take the quote unquote military crest. We're all peeking up over the top of the berm, looking out to the south, and it's like looking over wastelands. There's trash piles, a couple of wadis, you can see some buildings off in the distance. All this is going on. There are Kiowas flying around, there's arty land in the, it's nuts. And the whole squad is just strung out in this one long line. We got, 3 to 5 meters between each guy. And I was the second to last guy on the flank. The guy all the way on the right flank was this kid from New Haven, Connecticut, Nick Dallow. Nick was a saw gunner, and he had an optic on his saw. I just had the old M68, little reticle with no magnification, and Nick was a PFC, I was a specialist, and theoretically I was in charge of him. So I'm like, Nick, look through your 145, start scanning those trash piles. Let me know if you see any movement. So pretty much just as soon as I say that to him, all hell breaks loose. There's that pop, 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 snap, 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 like just insane amount. We're taking insane amounts of fire, and I roll over on my side and look to my left, and there was this one of the guys in my fire team, Josh West, was about 3 meters away from me, and rounds start hitting in between us. And he looks at me, we both look at each other, and we roll over on our backs, and the thing we hadn't noticed, and this is that whole, first real battle, first day in, a real combat environment, was that when we got up on the berm, it was not only elevated, looking to the south, it was also elevated looking to the north, back where the rest of the city was, and we were higher than the buildings of the water treatment plant. And about 200 yards away, the Fedi Saddam had infiltrated into all these buildings, and they could see as clear as day. And all you could see on all these rooftops were muzzle flashes.
Oh, Jesus.
And we were completely exposed.
You're on the wrong side of the berm?
I don't think there was technically a right side of the berm at that point.
You were just on the berm, which is a bad place to be right then.
So it was almost just kind of instinctive, we got to get up, we got to move. Guys are yelling, team leaders are yelling at guys, my squad leader's get over here. And there was all the way on the left side of the berm was a small depression. And I emphasize small.
Yeah.
And we all piled into this thing. So instead of 3 to 5 meters between guys, my feet were laying on top of my team leader's feet. I could reach out and touch the guy next to me, and we're just trying to get as small as we possibly could under just withering fire. One guy kept jumping back and forth over the berm trying to figure out which side was the safest spot to be on. He'd go on one side, he gets shot at. Boop, back over onto one side, gets shot at there.
Shit.
Just back and forth. And the whole time, my squad leader, I guess, was trying to get radio contact with our company headquarters to basically either get permission for us to fall back into the compound, or more practically, let them know we were coming in, because it was we couldn't stay out there. And it was, like I said, it was nuts. One of the other team leaders just kept yelling that he couldn't see a target, and in the midst of all of this, as I'm laying there, I see this black puff, puffy cloud in the sky suddenly appear about 75 meters away. And I'm looking at it, and in the back of my brain, it's that's something bad. And then another black puffy cloud appears.
Something bad.
50 meters away. And I'm I kick my team leader, and I'm look at that. I think those are mortars. I think they can see us. I think they're adjusting fire on us. And pretty much as soon as that happens, we have one go off right over our head. the tail fin from the mortar lands in between my team leader's legs. And at that point, my squad leader just was like, run, everybody back in. And we get back up and go running down the length of this berm, the shooting gallery, with the bubble wrap. I hate bubble wrap to this day, pretty much for this reason. Just pop, pop, snap, snap, snap. Run back, and guys are falling. I mean, we were going hell bent for leather to get to something that resembled cover, because this whole scene had lasted 10 to 15 minutes. This had been going on. And we get back into the compound, and there was like a welcoming committee of guys from the other platoons. I remember my buddy Steve Kelly grabbing me and just starting to pat me down and going, "Are you hit?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like the adrenaline surging. And so we end up collapsing back in there, like, you know, and while all of this is going on, there are other elements in contact. It was sheer madness. And then of course we've been back inside the wire for like 5 minutes, and the word comes, "Hey, we're moving out." And it was the biggest gut check of my life to just put my Kevlar back on, pick my weapon up, and walk back outside that wire. Because after having gone through that experience on the berm, I was like, I'm going to die today. There was not a doubt in my mind. And it was kind of weird because when we first started getting shot at, I had that, like, my pulse was just through the roof, and I'd never before or since have I ever been that scared in an instant. And after having come off of that, it was like you kind of left that fear behind, and just the rest of the day, the rest of the deployment, hell, the rest of my life since then, I've never had what I would say is a profound sense of fear. And I think it was because of that experience. Now, I said that there was a follow-on story.
Yeah.
After we took the city of Karbala, and we went to reorganize the push into Baghdad, we were at some sort of Iraqi military facility for 2 days of sort of like rest and reorganization. And during that time, there was a lot of reporters. It's modern warfare, so everybody at home gets to see it too. And I was, sitting on my ruck, and my first sergeant walks in, and he goes, "Brady, you got to go with the CO." And I was like, "Okay, for what?" And he says, "They're going to interview you on TV." They wanted to do, some other stuff that happened that day, and my company commander was like, "Yeah, pick Brady." So myself, Sergeant Lee, and my company commander, Captain McGahee, ended up getting interviewed live on MSNBC. And of course, there's a staff sergeant, a captain, and me, the specialist. And the reporter asked me, he goes, "Were you scared?" And all that was going through my head was, "Don't forget, you're on live TV. Your mother's probably watching. Don't say something you regret."
Right.
So instead of like the expletive-laden calling this guy an idiot for even asking me such an asinine question, I was just like, I gave him the sort of like patented response. I'm like, in a situation like that, if you're not scared, you're either dead or stupid.
That's insane. That's awesome. So that was like, how far into your deployment was that? The berm?
That was within the first 2 weeks.
Nothing like the crucible of combat. Like, I mean, I was there for 2 weeks when the Battle of Sadr City went down on April 4th, 2004. And I just remember thinking, like, holy shit, like, we just got here. Like, we were literally doing the whole left seat ride transition thing. And this shit went down. I'm like, oh, my God, we got a whole year of this. And I remember the first time we got shot at, I remember thinking, like, I was in disbelief. Like, I couldn't believe that they were actually shooting at us. I was like,
my fucking training get me ready for this shit?
I'm like, they're actually I'm like, they're actually shooting at us. I was like dumbfounded, man.
It's not like guys yelling budget cuts at you.
No.
Budget cuts. It's not that shit. They're no blanks. They're fucking real shit.
That's right. And you know as well as I do when shit hits the fan, like there's no such thing as retreat. We do not retreat. We advance in the opposite direction. Right?
Correct.
Absolutely. That's right.
So Penny was there at the exact same time as you. Those Marines that we talked about in our last interview, he was a 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, right there.
Down at the Gov Center.
Yeah. So do you remember a place called the Glass Factory? Huh? Yeah, so they were not that far from there.
Yeah, because there was like in Ramadi, but we had Opie Hotel, which was, if you go on, there's like a video on YouTube of that place got hit.
That place got smoked.
That was right before I got there. The platoon that basically my platoon relieved were the guys who were in Opie Hotel when they got hit by that. And
holy hell.
You see the video and you're like, everybody's dead.
Yeah.
There's no way
anyone lived from that. Yeah.
And they ended up, like, everybody in the building got knocked out. But they only had, I think, 1 or 2 guys that were actually hurt bad enough to even get CASEVAC'd. Like,
was it a bomb? Was it a bomb or something? What happened?
It was
a dump truck
full of explosives.
Oh, no shit, huh?
Dude, holy hell.
Wow.
Yeah, look that shit up on YouTube. It's fucking crazy.
What's it called?
OP Hotel.
OP Hotel, okay.
And then, so he was there in 05, 06, the same time as you, Brady. And then he went back in 07 as well.
Yeah, I heard it calmed down quite a bit by the time 07.
The second deployment, they were like, the second deployment was like a cakewalk compared to the first.
Mm.
We had a kid in my platoon, Jonathan Thomas, who I think he came a little bit later into the deployment, but he had been in the National Guard, and his National Guard unit had gotten sent to Ramadi in 2003, and he couldn't believe it when he got there in 2005 that it was the same city, because he was like, we used to walk down to the market. I'm like, I don't think I talked to an Iraqi civilian other than to tell them to put their hands up the whole year I was there. The second.
Right. It's fucking nuts, man.
That's crazy.
It was, I think like Maxim magazine did an article about Ramadi when I was there, and they were like, yeah, it's like the earth opened up and like Satan and all his devils came up and set up shop. I mean, it was that whole city was a mess.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Well, thanks for the story, man. Now back to our regular program schedule. I want to talk about this event you got going on here pretty soon. We're releasing this episode actually outside of our normal release schedule because we wanted to release it in enough time for people to be able to take advantage of the event. So this show is actually going to be edited and released for, we're planning on what, Bennett, this Saturday?
Saturday, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah, man. So, talk to us about what you got going on here.
So basically, Mystic Seaport Museum has teamed up with Wounded Warrior Project to put on an event in conjunction with the Wounded Warrior Project for Wounded Warrior Project alumni. And the basic idea behind it, I guess I should give you a little bit of the backstory. It's sort of been one of the things that have been kicking around in my head ever since I started working there, was how to sort of connect these two pretty separate parts of my life. I mean, like we just talked about, Army infantrymen, like, taking names and kicking doors down in Iraq, to, I'm like Clark Kent. I'm like mild-mannered, tall shipwrigger.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I love it.
we have, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 250,000 visitors a year. I mean, people come from all over the world. to visit Mystic Seaport. It's sort of one of one of those we get a lot of foreign visitors. In fact, one of the places you kind of have to see because it really does a very good job of telling the story of a very important part of the history of America, and
especially New England.
Oh, New England, but I mean, they cover, part of the, because we have the Morgan, this big whaling ship, there's a certain emphasis on whaling, but it also covers, the commercial growth of the United States, the shipbuilding industry, and how important it has been in our nation's history. In New England, as it features and all that, it's sort of being like a commercial center for the maritime trade through most of the 19th century. But to me, it always kind of seemed like, here we are as veterans, guys who, pledged our lives, offered up our lives, our health, and our, some of the best years of our life to protect America. But America, a lot of times, especially these days, can sort of seem like this kind of like ethereal concept. And like Mystic Seaport is a place where you can touch what America is. I mean, you can, trace the growth of the ideas that, that's what we are defending when we're in the military. Mm-hmm. So back in February, I was invited to a meeting with some of the other veterans who are on staff, and there's actually a fair number of veterans who work at Mystic Seaport, as I've come to discover, and a couple members of the senior staff of the Seaport, including the president of the Seaport, a man named Steve White. And Steve White had been contacted by, or had found out about another Wounded Warrior Project event that had been going on here in Stonington, Connecticut, in conjunction with the Stonington Harbor Yacht Club, and was looking for ideas on maybe doing something to kind of, help support that event, or as an alternative to that event. And I opened my big mouth, and of course, I'm a Wounded Warrior Project alumni, so I've been familiar with that organization and its mission. And, I was of the opinion and shared it that, maybe we want to do a standalone event, because Mystic Seaport is the kind of place where, I've worked there for 2 years now, and there's still things I haven't seen. You can literally spend days there, but maybe we wanted to explore what opportunities we had to kind of throw the doors open to the veteran community. Mm-hmm. And, fortunately, everybody else was on board with that. So we've been went through the brainstorming sessions and communication with the Warrior Project. And now the event is going to be this June 17th, Saturday, June 17th. Offering, of course, free admission to all the participants from the Wounded Warrior Project. It's open to not just warriors, but family members, husbands, wives, children, and caregivers. And it's, going beyond just the average visitor experience, and that we're putting on some special programming on that day specifically for the veterans. We actually have a functioning shipsmith shop, and the shipsmith is essentially a blacksmith that makes items for the maritime trades. So one of the hands-on activities that we're going to have is give guys an opportunity to do some smithing. Mm-hmm.
Which is badass.
Oh, I tell you what, it's fun, and if you ever have a chance to watch that show, Forged in Fire.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Love it.
One of the Smiths we have at the Seaport will be appearing in an episode, I believe this coming August.
That's cool.
So we'll have hands-on demos of blacksmithing, hands-on demos of coopering, which is actually traditional barrel making, which is pretty neat, doing some woodworking. We're going to have opening up our sailing center, so people who are interested to either, they if they want to, if they feel up to it, they'll actually be able to take out either a Diardow or a JY-15, which are small sailboats. We have a pretty vast fleet of them. and there'll be staff on hand there to assist. We'll be doing exclusive waterfront tours on one of our two boats that we use for that. Either it's going to be Liberty launch or a smaller boat called Necessity. We're going to have, of course, there's also going to be the regular programming that goes on at the seaport according to the summer schedule. So there's going to be all sorts of demonstrations going on. There'll actually be folks who will go aloft on the Morgan and demonstrate, and by actually doing setting sails on a square rig ship, which is, it's pretty neat to see. It's really cool to do too. And then we're also opening up our shipyard, which is a functioning shipyard. We're currently restoring Mayflower 2. So if anybody's been to Plymouth Plantation, that's a vessel that's usually exhibited there. Mm-hmm. She's actually down getting complete restoration and preparation for the 2020 anniversary. It's the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrim's Crossing, and they want to use the vessel for some sailing programs out in Massachusetts Bay. So we have her now, and we're restoring her to seaworthy condition, so she'll be able to go and do that. Right now I'm working with Whit Perry, who is the Director of Maritime Preservation at Plymouth Plantation, to do some talks on the Mayflower. The lead shipwright, Matthew Barnes, has offered to do some demonstrations and actually how we shape timbers, as we're not talking small little strips of plywood here, massive 1,000-pound pieces of live oak, but do some demonstrations so people kind of get a better idea of what goes into building and maintaining these vessels, along with guided tours through the areas that are not normally open to the public, the actual floor of the shipyard shop, up in the rig loft where I work, which is a land of ropes. And then there are also some other activities that are that normally happen during the day that have an additional cost, mostly geared towards younger visitors, toy boat building, like 19th century candle making, and all of those activities will also be offered free of charge to wounded warriors, their families, and their guests.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And then we're also doing, of course, complimentary lunch, and a welcome and introduction to the seaport by Steve White. And another thing that that's in the works for the day is opening up our collections and research building, which is actually not on the grounds of the museum proper, but across the street, and it's where we store the majority of the artifacts. Like any other museum in the world, really we only get to exhibit a small portion of the collection at a time. But this way, our visitors from the Wounded Warrior Project will have a chance to kind of see all that the Seaport has in its collection and in its entirety. And the Seaport itself isn't a traditional museum. It's not. Most folks, if you've been to Smithsonian or Natural History Museum in New York, you have these static displays. You get to go, you see some artifacts, or some little tidbits of information you can read. The Seaport is a very interactive experience. It covers 19 acres and includes essentially a recreated 19th century seafaring village. And it's recreated in the sense that there wasn't actually a village in that spot in the 19th century. Where the Seaport Museum was originally a shipyard. The entire grounds was actually 2 shipyards at one point. But they've gone and brought in original 19th century buildings from various locations all around New England and relocated them to Mystic Seaport, not just to exhibit them and what that particular purpose that the building served, but also to help to preserve the building itself. It's and the staff at the Seaport, I'm a somewhat biased person in my opinions, but the staff is absolutely top notch. I mean, some of the best people I have worked with in my life.
That's pretty cool.
So
So is this this is a place you actually work, or you just volunteer at, or what?
No, I work. The Seaport has basically two major components. There's the museum side of it, which is our interpretation department, the Seafaring Village area, or as we call it, the North End, and then there's the shipyard where we have our preservation and restoration of these historic vessels that takes place. I work in the shipyard. I actually work in the rigging department. To all three of us. But I am a full-time employee at the Seaport.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I think we have about 320 regular employees, and then a small army unto itself of people who freely give their time to volunteer at the Seaport. So it's a pretty special place to work. It's also, as far as I know, it's the largest maritime museum in the country, and it may be the largest maritime museum in the world.
Wow.
Bottom line is it's badass.
It is. It is definitely
really badass. It really is badass.
Now, is that where was it the oldest Navy ship that's still commissioned? Was it the Constitution?
Mm-mm.
Constitution is up in Boston. She's at the.
Oh, okay.
She lives at the Navy Yard. I actually had the opportunity, because we have a pretty close relationship with them. Marguerite, whose last name is escaping me right now, who is the chief historian for USS Constitution, actually used to work at Mystic Seaport. So we had the opportunity to take a shipyard field trip up to go see the Constitution last August.
It's a pretty badass boat too.
Yeah.
I tell our visitors when they come and they see the Morgan, and they're impressed by the size of the Morgan. She's about 130 feet long. I mean, she's no dinghy, but she looks like one when she was next to the Constitution back in 2014.
That's really cool, man.
Because the Morgan's 130 something.
Yeah, about 130 feet long, and she's about 108 feet to the top of her mainmast. And Constitution is roughly double her length, but she's astronomically
it's
big.
Ridiculous, man. People don't realize how big that fucking boat is. I mean, Constitution is huge.
Yeah, definitely tiny compared to our modern naval.
Oh
ships, but still, it's like, damn, yeah, man.
And back in the day, even farther back, I mean, when you get into the early 1700s, there were boats even bigger than Constitution. I mean, just massive, massive. Some of the Spanish galleons were just, or the ships of the line. When you start getting up into like a first or second class boat,
right?
Freaking ridiculous, man.
Like Victory, which was Lord Nelson's flagship at Trafalgar, that's the oldest warship afloat or in existence. I'm not sure if she's still floating right now. She's pretty old, but she's like the size of a mall. I mean,
it's
enormous. But one of the nice things about like USS Constitution and Mystic Seaport is, along with preserving the vessels themselves, is the preservation of the skills needed to take care of these old wooden ships. And it's not, the materials that we work with a lot of southern live oak. We're actually some of the trees that will be used going into Mayflower were trees that went down in Hurricane Katrina. What it takes to be able to look at essentially a tree. And I'm no shipwright. I'm a rigger, so to me it's a bit of black magic. But to be able to look at the shape of the tree and be like, oh, I can get this particular type of timber out of that spot there, and this one there, and then to actually go and mill the lumber, and in the instance of Mayflower, all that work, we use modern or relatively modern so some of the stuff dates back to like the 1950s, but relatively modern tools to do the rough shape. But all the finish and fit work is done entirely by hand tools that would have been familiar to a shipwright in the 1500s. So it's a pretty impressive operation.
That's really cool, man. I'm sure it just being able to work on something like that today really just makes you appreciate the craftsmanship of boat and shipbuilders back in the day when that's all they had to use was the I mean, because they don't have like power tools and things like that we have the advantage of using. You know what I mean?
Yep. I mean, it's yeah, and we still like use a lot of brute strength manpower and block and tackle to get a fair amount of stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
But when we have to put up a mast that weighs 2.5 tons, it is nice to have a crane there.
I would say.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Wow, man. Well, very cool, sir. Now, how much does this cost? This event?
The event is entirely free of charge for members of the Wounded Warrior Project, and it's specifically for Wounded Warrior Project 9. We do have a program coming up this fall that is going to be open to, as I call it, not for a specific era of veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So it's open to veterans regardless of what era they served, be it Vietnam, Cold War, Gulf War, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Afghanistan, whatever. And that's going to be through our sailing center, and it's actually going to be an 8-week-long veteran sailing program. So, and that's specifically for veterans. The hope behind it is to create the opportunity not just for guys to learn how to sail. It's open to anybody regardless of sailing experience. In fact, we're going to be starting at the bottom floor, and by the end of eight weeks, the goal is to have guys have the skill set that if they want to, they can go down and hop on any small sailboat and be able to successfully operate the vessel and maneuver it and go out and have a great day on the water. But also to create an opportunity for local area veterans to kind of get to know each other and make connections.
Yeah.
Which has been one of the bigger struggles for me since I got out in moving back to this area is it's not the same as being close to a large urban area where there's a lot of resources.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of the Veterans Administration, while I live in Connecticut, I actually go to the VA hospital in Providence, Rhode Island, when I need to go to VA appointments because it's geographically closer than to going to any of the other places in Connecticut.
Well, otherwise you got to go all the way to West Haven.
Yeah, you got to go to West Haven or Newington.
Yeah.
So, and for me, there was early on in my time post service I felt fairly isolated because I just did not know who the other veterans were. If I went down to the VFW, it was almost entirely like Vietnam era guys.
Yeah.
And drinking $1.25 PBRs was not really how I envisioned spending the rest of my life after I got out of the service.
Right. Right.
So I think the Seaport is a great place beyond just the Wounded Warrior Project event to sort of create opportunities as like a gathering point for veterans. And my hopes is that as time goes by, as we put this event on and the sailing group in the fall, that this can kind of become a regular event and something that we can offer the veteran community going forward, sort of in perpetuity.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the show and sharing your stories and sharing with the listening audience this opportunity down there that you've got. I hope there's a few guys anyway that get an opportunity to go and take advantage of that. It's really, really cool. And where can more people find out about you and more about this? Well,
for folks interested in the Wounded Warrior Project event, you can you go to Wounded Warrior Project's website, please, woundedwarriorproject.org, and there'll be information there. Also,
it is in the post too, just so
yeah,
people that are WWP alumni know what the post is, and that post, the event is already posted in the post. So
yeah,
okay.
And there was a little snafu. They had July 17th instead of June 17th.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, they've already got it squared away in their actual how they do their booking.
Right.
But the next edition of the post that comes out, which I believe will be tomorrow, will actually have the corrected date in it. So by the time this goes to air, that should already be something of the past. And then for folks that are interested, aren't quite sure if maybe this is an event they want to participate in, I welcome to go to the Seaport's website. It's mysticseaport.org, or they can just Google, Mystic Seaport, and it'll pop right up in Google.
Awesome.
But,
very cool. Well, thank you, sir, for what you do and for keeping these old ships and our history alive. Because if it weren't for people like you, we would be at a loss for our history and what it means, what it means to us today, and what it meant to us back then. So I greatly do appreciate it, and tell everybody that you work with, thanks a lot, and appreciate it. It's really awesome to have, a veteran like yourself, participate in keeping stuff like this going. So it's really, really cool. All right, folks, you can find all the show notes for this episode by heading over to changeyourpov.com /. Oh my God, Bennett, what do we call this one? Hold on a minute.
Behind the curtain.
Behind the curtain. So that's BHC. No, BT. I can't spell. Behind the curtain. BTC 001. There we go. So head on over to changeyourpov.com /BTC 001. And yeah, man, never miss an episode.
Good thing we got that hashed out on the air.
Well, this is this is a Saturday show. We've only done one other one.
And it was a shit show.
And it was me and Bennett and our daughters, and yeah, it was fun. So, and it hasn't even aired yet. So episode 1 is actually going to come out before our episode 00, which is kind of different, but whatever. It is what it is.
Whatever. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. changeyourpov.com /episode BTC 001. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We have a lot more great content headed your way. And hey, come be a part of our community over at Change Your POV Squad Facebook group. You can learn more about everything we got going on over there and connect with us, ask us questions, tell us what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear more of. And yeah, man, that's it. Right,
I want you to say BTC 001 3 times fast.
BTC 001. All right, folks. Until next time. Oh, shit show.